Hi everyone, how you doing? Okay, a movie mix for you. What do you know about these 11 movies? If I say the actor names Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, straight away you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Maybe not. I'm Not There from 2007 has Christian Bale and Heath Ledger both portraying Bob Dylan at various stages of his career, and Bob Dylan is also represented here by Ben Whishaw, Richard Gere and Cate Blanchett. A really fantastic performance from Cate Blanchett in this, surprisingly. So yeah, this is a really unconventional biopic, if you like. So it doesn't follow the typical kind of format of a biopic. So this really is here just to give flavours of Dylan and also flavours of some of the film styles that have been used over the last few decades. So touches of Fellini, touches of Goddard, even a little bit of Richard Lester in here. So yeah, very unconventional. Interesting, I think, to compare this with the upcoming A Complete Unknown from James Mangold, which has got Timothée Chalamet playing Bob Dylan. Enjoyable one this, from 1956. It's The Catered Affair, starring Betty Davis doing a Bronx accent, Ernest Borgnine, Debbie Reynolds, Barry Fitzgerald and Rod Taylor, directed by Richard Brooks, who also directed In Cold Blood and The Professionals. And it's about a working class couple who live in the Bronx, and their daughter, played by Debbie Reynolds, is about to get married. She knows that her parents are not wealthy and she's happy to have just a simple wedding. And that's about to happen, except pride takes over for Betty Davis's character, and she really then wants to go and give her daughter a lavish, catered wedding affair. And this causes a lot of friction. Ernest Borgnine, the husband, is just about to save up to buy his own taxi so that he can run his own business. So yeah, there's money strains, there's class issues in this, and all other kinds of family relation drama. Just an enjoyable one, this. So it's adapted by Gore Vidal from a play by Paddy Chayefsky, and Chayefsky had written Marty as well. And so just the previous year, 1955, Ernest Borgnine had won his Academy Award for his performance as Marty. Enjoyable drama, this one, well worth seeing. From 2023, Dogman, directed by Luc Besson, the director of Leon and The Fifth Element, is a really bizarre and unconventional drama that's about emotional abuse and trauma and a character that finds solace and comfort with a lot of stray dogs. Many stray dogs. Like I say, this is a really bizarre film, this one, but it's made captivating by the performance from Caleb Landry Jones, one of the most unusual performances he's given in a film. He definitely makes it worth watching. At times he's performing in a wheelchair, at other times he's doing some drag act performances as the likes of Marilyn Monroe and Edith Piaf. It's all very bizarre, but it is watchable. Caleb Landry Jones, it seems, is on a roll with Luc Besson at the moment because he's going to be up next performing as Dracula in a film for Luc Besson. The Bride from 1985. This is a Bride of Frankenstein tale that's directed by Frank Rodham, who also directed Quadrophenia and Lords of Discipline. This one stars Sting as Dr. Frankenstein, as well as Jennifer Beals of Flashdance fame as the Bride, and it also has Clancy Brown from Highlander as the monster. Now, this one has absolutely fantastic production design during the opening 10 minutes where we get to see the bride being brought back to life. Really great sequence that is. But then the film splits into two halves and isn't quite so successful. Basically, we have one part of the story in which Dr. Frankenstein is trying to bring the bride who has rejected the monster. He tries to sort of keep her for himself and enter her into Victorian society. Meanwhile, the monster has left the castle and has hooked up with a dwarf from a local circus, and they are going on a country adventure. Sting is pretty awful in this. Jennifer Beals doesn't do that much better, but this is definitely worth watching for Michael Rappaport's performance in this, an actor who had dwarfism and who unfortunately committed suicide at the age of 38. So he was also in Time Bandits, but yeah, his performance here is probably the best performance that he gave. To Hell and Back from 1955. This is based on the autobiography of Audie Murphy during his World War II exploits. Audie Murphy, known for westerns, but during World War II he became the most decorated Army soldier in US history. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for a particular event in France in which he ordered his men to retreat whilst he held position, radioed in his position as German infantry and tanks approached. And he managed to hold them off single-handedly, getting on board a burning tank and using its machine gun to fire back at the Germans as they approached. So yeah, one of many incredible events that he was involved in. Now, the fascinating thing to think about with this movie is Audie Murphy playing himself and recreating some of these events which must have been hugely traumatic. So that alone makes To Hell and Back a very fascinating film, even if some of the other actors in this film are not great actors, if you like. But yeah, a fascinating one. Edge of Eternity from 1959. This movie's actually going to get a Blu-ray release by Indicator in January 2025, so look out for that. This is a murder investigation thriller that's set in Arizona, specifically around the Grand Canyon, and it stars Cornell Wilde as a deputy sheriff who's investigating a series of murders, and it also co-stars Victoria Shaw, who had starred in The Crimson Kimono for Samuel Fuller. Cornell Wilde is an actor who is interesting to me, but perhaps more so as a director. He's directed movies such as The Naked Prey, Beach Red and No Blade of Grass, all of which for me are fascinating for very different reasons. Now, the murder investigation side of this thriller, which is directed by Don Siegel, is not all that riveting, to be honest, but what makes this movie exceptional is that it's filmed in CinemaScope all around and within the Grand Canyon itself. Really, really spectacular. We've got flying sequences that go inside and lots of action that takes place all around the rim of the canyon as well. And this murder investigation also involves a mining operation, and we get to see an incredible stunt sequence finale that involves a tram car that goes right across the Grand Canyon. So for sure they used a bit of green screen, but there's definitely some really amazing stunt work going on as well. So yeah, this film is definitely worth seeing for those reasons. I'm sure the restored Blu-ray will look absolutely fantastic when it comes to showing the Grand Canyon. Troubled Water from 2008 is an intense Norwegian drama that concerns itself with coming to terms with trauma. This involves a young man who is released from prison having served time relating to the murder of a young child, and he tries to rehabilitate himself back into society by getting a job as a church organist, and he develops a relationship there with the female priest and her young son. Meanwhile, the mother of the murdered child has been trying to come to terms with her grief and trauma for many years, and then she comes across this young man when she visits the church. Inevitably, they end up meeting and dealing with their past. Yeah, fascinating drama, this one. Really, really well acted. Palsver Hagen is the man here. He came to my attention before in the film Kon-Tiki, playing the raft explorer Thor Heyerdahl. And the actress in this is Trine Dyrholm, an actress who I first saw in Susanne Bier's In a Better World. And I believe currently she's getting really rave notices in the film The Girl with the Needle. The Raggedy Rawnie from 1988. This is written by, directed by, and it stars Bob Hoskins. And this was a very personal project for him, based on gypsy tales that were told to him by his grandmother. It's a very unconventional movie, this one, quite strange. Set during World War II, filmed in Czechoslovakia, and it concerns a young man who becomes a deserter after wounding his commanding officer. He's quite traumatized and shell-shocked. He finds refuge in a barn nearby. And there's a young girl who's living at that barn. Her family have all been killed. She dresses him in her mother's dress and puts paint on his face. Still traumatized, he leaves the barn and encounters a gypsy group, and they all start to think that he is some kind of gypsy witch who can cast spells. and so he joins this gypsy group whilst war continues. It's a really, really unusual film. This stars Dexter Fletcher, who started as a child actor in Bugsy Malone, but is perhaps best known these days for directing movies such as Rocket Man and Eddie the Eagle. Richard Chamberlain may have played him in the 80s, but it's Stuart Granger as Alan Quatermain in King Solomon's Mines from 1950, which is perhaps the best version. Really fantastic one, this old school adventure, all filmed in Africa, co-starring Deborah Carr as a woman who hires Alan Quatermain to go in search of her missing husband in the wilds of Africa. Absolutely thunderous stampede sequence in this, which is just incredible to watch. Great adventure, great locations in Africa, really spirited adventure stuff, just good old school entertainment, great fun. Kandahar from 2001. This is directed by Mohsen Makhmalbaf, the Iranian director who was the inspiration for the excellent Abbas Kiarostami film Close Up that's in the Criterion collection. This is a fascinating drama, this one. It concerns an Afghan journalist who's living in Canada who gets a letter from her sister who is still in Afghanistan, crippled by a landmine, who informs her that she's intending to commit suicide. So the sister goes off in search of her and tries to get through the Iran-Afghanistan border to see if she can find her. This becomes not only a search for the sister, but a look at life for people under the Taliban regime and how it's affected their lives, cultural aspects of living in Afghanistan, restrictions and all of that kind of thing. So a really, really fascinating look that's almost documentary-like at times. There is some humour as well, and certainly you will never forget after seeing this the use of artificial limbs. Grand Slam from 1967, really fun one this. It's a heist movie that's set during the Rio Carnival, so yeah, quite exciting. It's an Italian-German-Spanish co-production, so it has got a bit of dubbing and sounds a little bit strange at times, but yeah, very, very enjoyable one this. Directed by Giuliano Montaldo, and I've talked about his film Closed Circuit before on my channel, which was a murder mystery that's set within a movie theatre playing a Western movie. Great fun movie, that one. But yeah, Grand Slam, we've got a great cast here that includes Edward G. Robinson and Janet Leigh, as well as Klaus Kinski and Robert Hoffman, and a score here by Ennio Morricone. Now, definitely the fun with this cast is that Klaus Kinski's acting style is just different from anybody else's, and you're never quite sure if he's just going to explode or do something unpredictable. He's just great fun to watch. Also in the style of heist movies such as Rafifi and Topkapi, we get this long extended heist sequence that's done in silence. Really entertaining one to watch. Some of the planning is all quite implausible and bizarre, including a very strange wooing of Janet Leigh's character, which is quite bizarre. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. Okay, any thoughts on any of those? Any that you plan to add to your watch list? Any that you've seen already? Let me know your thoughts and comments. Hopefully I'll see you again. Okay, thanks very much for watching this. All the best to you. Bye-bye.